welcome to Coach Dev Academy. This is Almeida. We're going to see my lap with the Porsche Cup at Magny, Cours, the new track in iRacing. We're going to see the entire lap, and then we're going to talk about corner by corner. All right, so this lap was a 38.5. It was the first 40 minutes of my life doing this track. So there are many little pointers that I noticed right away, but there might be some small differences as everyone learns the track and improves. I think the lap was pretty decent, and some very important things I'm gonna talk about cannot be ignored. So, for example, I was looking for off tracks and everything and references for some corners that are very connected, and it's quite difficult to hit the second one if you don't really nail the first one. This one, for example, I used this end of the curb as a turning point, and then from there, just a little bit of trail brake. As you can see, I turn in, still flat. I turn in, still flat. And then as soon as we get on the tarmac fully, I lift, and I go a little bit on the brakes, 5% brakes, just to point the car a little bit more, aim for this end of this inside curb here, and then back on power. I would say we can probably cut a little bit more of this. And then back on power, make sure you don't use this curb on the outside because you won't have time to come back without clipping this grass. Clipping this grass is not a good idea. And then from here, you are trying to go as much as you can to the left here, so you can change direction. But I'm already thinking about this one here. This is going to be the first of a very long double apex. So first apex of a very long double apex. We want to turn in and clip this one. As you can see, clipping a little bit. And then, but we want to be fast because there's such a huge gap between the two apexes. So this is the first apex. Then we go wide. And then we get back on power, and then we finally hit the second apex right here at the end of this little bluish green or greenish blue curb. Make sure you don't hit this dirt because it really makes the car lose the rear quite quickly. So look at the distance between the two apexes. We can even think as two corners, but really conceptually it is a first apex, and then the car is going wide, all off throttle, all while braking, and then you get back on power while pointing to the inside and hit the second apex here, and then you go wide. So you can pretty much call it a double apex. On the second one, just make sure you don't put all the four tires on the greenish blue or bluish green, because that's the off track. As you can see, I'm actually not using all of it. I could have put a little bit more of the car on the outside there. And then this is easy flat out. Going to the super tight hairpin, I'm using the second white line here as a braking reference, which would be the 150, because we have the 200 here, the first white line. Then we have the third white line, which is aligned with the 100, so that would represent the 150, but the sign is not there. Anyways, I'm using the second one. I'm not braking necessarily there. I'm starting to brake a little bit before, but my peak is when the car is aligned to the white line. And then very, very, very patient braking all the way to first gear and turning in quite late to have the best exit you can. I ended up gaining time by not using this curb here, because this curb kind of makes the car bounce a little bit on the exit, which makes you lose traction. And then from there, you can get back a little bit earlier in power and use a little bit of this exit here. It's kind of bumpy on the second one here, so not really sure if that would be ideal, but just make sure that you don't use this first curb here. And then all the way to this next sector here, make sure you open up as much as you can, and then downshift to fourth. Try to cut a little bit of this. There's going to be a little jump, and then as soon as you land, you change direction. You try to cut a little bit of the blue here. It's totally fine. Just make sure you don't put like all the 4 tires on the blue here. Will make you have a slowdown. So it's a very harsh punishment for cutting this one, because you can gain a lot of time by cutting it. And then on this one here, it's a tricky braking zone. I'm using the end of the curb as a reference. I'm not braking there. I'm braking way before, but I'm looking at that little place to situate, to know where I am, and then brake more or less 50%. We're never really braking in a straight line here, so you're not going to brake too hard. You brake more or less 50%, and then you're really trail braking forever. Second gear, super closing radius, so you have to be very patient before you get back on power. And then right after that, you get back on power. Make sure you don't go too greedy here, because if you end up hitting this dirt here, there's a bump right here. This little bump will make the car bounce. And if you're trying to bring the car to the left, by the moment you bounce on this little bump, you completely lost traction, and it really, you pretty much cannot carry speed on this straight after. So it's better to have a safe exit, because boom, now you can see it bouncing there. You definitely want to hit this this bump with the car straight. And then for the next right left is kind of confusing, because it's a similar thing, but this one is a little bit slower. So you want to brake a little bit more, fourth gear, and then but fourth gear lower RPM. The other one was fourth gear high RPM, so that's why it's confusing. Then you want to be as close as possible to this sausage here. Do not touch the orange curb. And then you change direction again. You try to cut this. It's very important to try to cut this, because you're going to gain a lot of time here to be able to do this last bit flat before braking super hard. And on this one, I'm using the beginning of this curb as a braking reference. Kind of patient. You can try cutting a little bit of this curb here, but I didn't really see any benefit because the car bounces a little bit too much. I prefer to just use the white and red. And then back on power patiently, and be careful with this one here, because as soon as you get on the outside, you are off camber, and it's very, very easy to lose the rear. As you can see, I actually had to do a little correction there, because as soon as you get on the outside, you have a lot less grip than you expect. Then for this one, there's no necessity to go all the way to the right here, even though they put a curb there for some reason. And then you just stay on the inside, using the 100 as a reference. I'm not braking there. I'm using it as a reference, but I'm braking, say, in between the first line here and the 100 board, all the way to second gear. And then same thing, not really using this little bump here, because I want to get a stable launch off this one. Then all the way to the outside, and then just a little lift to make the car point, just using the engine braking to make the car point. For the second one here, you want to hit more the first apex of this last chicane, so you can not jump as much on the second one. You can see I'm jumping a lot more on the first one, and then not that much on the second one, because we want to carry more speed and be really flat out. If you end up hesitating, not hitting this first one, but then you hit the second one way too much, the car is going to bounce all over the place, and you're not going to have a good exit, which kills your next lap. So the end of this lap here is quite early, and it's quite tricky, because you might end up benefiting from cutting this in a weird way where you lose exit speed. So if you're doing a quali lap, you might benefit from that. But if you're thinking about a race pace, then just make sure you use this first apex more and the second apex less, and then let the car go all the way to having all 4 tires on the curb, because you only get on off track here if you put all 4 tires on the green. So that was my first run, 40 minutes. I know there's a lot to improve. Lap time was a 1:38.5. Let me know what you think. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you next week. Bye.